Welcome to the Well Woman Show, where we interview women executives, leaders, and entrepreneurs.
And you're listening to the Well Woman Show,
where motivated women achieve fulfillment and well-being.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show.
Well, I try to take time for myself by coming to things like Well Woman drinks.
To be accepting of myself no matter what, and to step away from judgment as much as possible.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show.
You're going to be in for a good ride. I don't think I would have any advice per se because I don't regret anything. Everything I've ever done, I've learned from it, one way or another, good or bad.
I think it comes down to being a little bit selfish for yourself, put your own oxygen mask on first and then give what's left.
I'm a woman. I would prefer to tell my own story. My story, though it's very personal, is universal because everything that happens to me happens to just basically everybody, especially women.
You're listening to the Well Woman Show. And now your host, Giovanna Rossi.
Hi, Giovanna Rossi here, and welcome to another episode of the Well Woman Show. I'm so happy you're here, so thanks for tuning in. Today's topic is mindfulness to achieve financial and spiritual growth. And hopefully by the end of the show, you'll be inspired to examine the ways you interact with money, reflect upon your financial failures and mistakes, and begin to include mindful practices in your financial life for greater spiritual and financial wealth. That sounds awesome, doesn't it? My guest today is Leisa Peterson, self-made millionaire, mom, wife, transformational business coach, educator, and retreat facilitator. In her business, Wealth Clinic, she specializes in coaching entrepreneurs who are ready to take their profits to a new level while at the same time creating greater joy, fulfillment, and inner prosperity for themselves. Leisa blogs about money and mindfulness for the Huffington Post as a top chart podcast on iTunes and is currently writing a book called Breaking Free of Scarcity Mindset: How to Overcome Not Enough to Create a Business of Plenty. Today I'm going to talk to Leisa Peterson about the importance of precise money management, how you can be mindful in your relationship with money, and the first steps to gaining financial and spiritual wealth through mindful practices. The free giveaway today is Leisa's Wealth Flower Exercise. Listeners can download it at wellwomanlife.com/011show. That's wellwomanlife.com/011show. I love this giveaway because it's a quick and easy start to planning out your financial and life goals in a way that makes them concrete and attainable. But before we get started, I want to thank our sponsor today, Leafy Greens. They provide seasonal cleanses and nutrition consultations, and Leah is the owner. She does a great job of the 21-day cleanse, and I did this a couple of years ago, and it literally changed my life. You can visit wellwomanlife.com/leafygreens to sign up for the cleanse and get a special Well Woman discount. Now for my interview with Leisa Peterson. I'm sitting with Leisa Peterson, and I just want to welcome you to the program, Leisa. It's so great to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we've just been at this big conference all weekend together, and so it's been an incredible couple of days, and now I get to talk to you for the Well Woman Show, which is so exciting. Can you give me a summary of who you are and what your commitment is to women's well-being through the lens of what you do as a mindful wealth coach or expert?
Sure. I spent my life very consumed with money and success. And my evolution as a human being has been to have all kinds of life lessons that showed me that it's one thing to have lots of money, and it's another to live a life of abundance. And I am very focused on teaching men and women, but I love women because they really get what I do. And it is all coming kind of back to the idea that the closer we get to following our passion, for many of us, the money actually gets more difficult to make. And so I have found that by just bringing that to the surface, that's something that's going to happen for most people, we can, in one way, make lots of money, But in another way, we can have that work be tied into what we feel like we're really here to do. And that is so much better of a path to take because that's where joy exists. So I like to teach people how to get there.
Oh, that's so interesting. There's so many things I want to ask you about what you just said. But the first one is how. Just explain that a little bit more. Is it a difference in mindset or is it a difference in taking action?
So the way that I see money is that ultimately, when you kind of really get down to the nitty-gritty, it is totally connected to our feelings of self-value and self-worth. And so I can only speak that from my own journey. It's and I'm not sure if that answers your question, but that's kind of the tactical, all roads are leading to that place of how can we use our experiences with money to see that we might have some work to do in our self-value.
Oh, yeah, right, totally. So if you say that money is harder the closer we get to our passion, if someone wants to continue pursuing their passion, how do they make money doing it?
How do they make money doing it? Understanding that there's a spectrum. So oftentimes, even when we start businesses, we may follow the money, right? Because people have told us to do that. But I think over time, we find ourselves gravitating to these other deeper callings, and we may adjust our business to be more in alignment with what brings us happiness. So how I say it is start wherever you're at, whatever's appearing. If it's following the money, that's fine, but also embrace the idea that perhaps doors are going to open that might really scare you because you're like, I don't know if I can make money doing that. And also watch those. So don't exclude those because they're scary. Embrace them, test them. In this weekend, I think, what we've been learning is this idea of stacking wins. Don't have to go all out and just only follow your passion. Allow it to be organic and natural, and it doesn't have to be like all or nothing. Mm-hmm. Does that help?
Yeah, that's good. And when you say you work with men and women, what are the biggest differences with money with men and women, with how men and women are with money?
I would say, so, I have this long career of working with men and women around money, so more than 25 years. And so the things that I've gleaned from it are that now from where I stand, I notice that women are more comfortable revealing their vulnerability about money, like being willing to express the fact that they are frustrated, that it hasn't gone the way that they want it to go. Whereas men, it's different. There's so much stigma around not being able to provide for themselves and for others that there's a lot of unwillingness to be vulnerable about it. So the good news is I've found that in order to make any change, you have to be at some point vulnerable and willing to say, hey, I need help. And that's the beginning of the change. So I think women are more drawn to the work I do because they're at that place of like, this sucks and I want a better, experience with money.
So a lot of what you talk about is mindfulness and mindful wealth. And I want you to explain that a little bit because I think a lot of people don't think of themselves and money. They don't think of mindfulness and money in the same sentence.
Yes.
So, for example, I can think of several people who love money and they want to make money, but they don't see why they would need to be concerned about mindfulness in order to get there.
Yes, I understand that. And first and foremost, I found that to have this better experience with money, it comes down to awareness. So awareness of each and every engagement we have with money. So, mindless spending, for example, is not going to get us where we want to go. So we need to be aware of how we're spending money in order to, be able to manage it. So like as business owners, I found that the people who have the greatest financial success aren't afraid to look into the numbers and to really pay attention to what's happening. How much money is going out? How much money is coming in? Same goes for a personal budget. So that's, one example of mindfulness with money is just being really present and not avoiding looking at the credit card bill because it's uncomfortable. So, yeah.
Okay. And when you teach or talk about mindful wealth, where do you start? Like, how do you walk people through starting that?
I pull from my own experience, which is that I reached the top in my mind of that money pyramid. Like I was pursuing money and became a self-made millionaire by the time I was in my mid-30s. And instead of like having tea at the Ritz and thinking, woohoo, I've made it, I immediately really, now in hindsight, went into this place of like worrying about keeping it. So there was no joy. There was no like arriving. There was just like, I made it and now I've got to preserve it and now I've got to keep from losing it and not spending it all or bad things happening or all this stuff. And I just saw that was never going to be, it wasn't dealing with the root of why I wanted it so badly, which was really back to self-worth. I wanted to feel good about my life. I wanted to feel happy. I wanted to feel secure. And I realized that just having it doesn't give you those things. If that's something that you had as a deficiency going in, which many people do, when they pursue it aggressively, they have some deficiency with it. I also, at the same time, actually was very involved in spiritual studies, understanding myself, becoming more aware through meditation. And there's an extreme in that world too, where you kind of have to like give away, everything in order to be seen as this like pious, person who only cares about the welfare of others. And I could see that world was also an extreme. And so what I have been working on and so passionate about is how can we be materially wealthy and have this incredible inner wealth and not have to sacrifice, but be able to find the harmonious balance between those worlds. That's what I describe to be mindful wealth.
Okay. And for listeners today, what, handful of tips, what 2 or 3 things can people do right away to start getting better?
Yes. Number 1, everyone, no matter if you have plenty of money or not enough money, everyone should have some kind of spending plan. You really need to know how much money is coming into your household on a monthly basis. And at the same time, you need to know how much is going out. And without that, you can't be mindful because you don't know, and therefore you have no way of really being present in the moment with what's going on. So you can't make plans for the future. I think the reason I was able to do what I did with money was because I had a very clear idea of goals. Where did I want to go? What did I want the money for? And how was I going to bring it into reality? And the only way I could do that was by having a spending plan. So that's a big one. Okay. The other thing is if you have a lot of debt, then to be able to do the same thing, become really aware of what your debt looks like, pull your credit report, know how much debt you owe, and come up with a plan for how that debt is going to be paid off in conjunction with your spending plan, right? So you're spending money to pay that down. Debt is incredibly, it's just a draining effect on us. They call it good debt, bad debt, right?
I was going to ask you about, yeah.
Yeah, so a mortgage is considered to be good debt because you are paying it off as long as you have a principal, payment plan.
Credit cards are bad debt.
Yeah, exactly, because you're paying a higher rate,
right.
And it's only deferred, kind of oftentimes there wasn't that deferred enjoyment, so you're paying for things that you really could have paid cash for, conceivably. But that, if you have the spending plan, you hopefully don't cause more credit card debt. But if you have it, then that's the first thing to pay off. Does that help?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are two good tips. What about investing? At what point are you advising women to start investing, and what would be the first thing they would think about doing?
So the first and most important is to have a 3 to 6 month emergency spending account that doesn't get touched outside of emergencies. So you never really want to start traditional investing until you have that taken care of. However, if you have a 401k, you have a retirement plan, then that's separate from the emergency savings. And that would be something that you invest. So it's making sure that you're going in that right order. And then when you get into investing, being careful that that reflects your true comfort. And you don't just make decisions based on somebody telling you, oh, you should do this. Like, you should know that it's really, you're not going to be an aggressive investor if you're a conservative thinker. Right.
Okay, and the 3 to 6 month emergency account, I mean, everybody talks about this. Should that be in a separate bank account, like a money market account? So
a money market.
So it's accessible but not immediately accessible?
Yeah, so totally separate from your checking and, other types of savings. Like, it's in its own separate account. You aren't looking at it all the time. It's sort of put off there. You're not trying to move money around every month with that account.
And where's the best place for women to look for the best type of money market account to start with?
I like these online resources like Ally Bank, ALLY.com. It's FDIC insured. It's online. You can move the money from Ally to your traditional account. But the reason I like it is they pay higher rates than like any bank does. So at least you're not getting like 0.001%. You're getting like 1%.
Right.
Which
it's still low, but
still
it's
low.
higher.
But it's like back to stacking wins. Making those good choices, hopefully interest rates will be higher at some point in the future, and you might as well start getting in the habit of knowing, how do I get that best return?
Yeah. No, that's really good. I've been hearing a lot about the internet money market accounts, and it just sounds so sketchy. So for listeners, you're hearing it from Leisa Peterson, Art of Mindful Wealth expert here. It's okay to do your money markets on internet banking.
Yeah, just FDIC insured.
FDIC.
Because that's going to be the same as like a Wells Fargo or your bank down the street. Yeah.
Okay, I am speaking with Leisa Peterson today, and we're going into a segment called Superpowers for Success. And actually, I'm going to pause that. Leisa, when did you know you needed to become a well woman? What was your aha moment as you sort of changed from becoming a self-made millionaire and being in the nitty-gritty of the finance world to really pursuing your mindful wealth?
I knew when the light bulb moment happened for me, when all kinds of years of helping people kind of preserve and protect their money, I knew that wasn't the thing that really float my boat. Like, it didn't get me as excited as it does to help people make money. And making money has a lot to do with mindset. And so I could see that I would never be able to make the big impact in other people's lives until I stepped into a role that was completely unfamiliar, no charted territory, kind of crazy according to the financial world that I was coming from. So it was like all the roads were like, the bricks were high to keep me from that jumping over, but I knew intuitively that I could have a much bigger impact in people's lives by going towards what's the root of why we don't experience wealth in our life. What's the root of why we don't get ahead? And that was the place I wanted to work from.
Okay. And you speak about things like intuition and knowing things intuitively. Did you always have that ability even when you were working in the mainstream finance industry?
Yes. I think I've been an empath since I was little and did a really good job of ignoring it. So I've learned that an empath actually has a part of the brain called the insula that's larger, and it allows you to feel people's emotions. And being in the money business and then watching people suffer as much as they did kind of was like a sick, demented joke on Leisa, because it's like the worst thing. If you're an empath and you always are working with people who are all torn up inside about something, it was painful for me to help people, because I couldn't help them at the level that they were hurting.
Right.
I could only help them with like the residual effect.
And you think now that you've made the switch into this career that your business, that you're able to do that more?
Yeah. In fact, I turn off the thinking when I'm helping my clients. I turn off the thinking, because when you're working at the emotional level, it's a feeling connection that we have with one another that doesn't necessarily use the brain like in that way. It's this other kind of form of communication. And it's super powerful, because people say, well, how do you know that? And I'm like, I have no clue, but it was coming up. And is this the thing that's challenging you? And they're like, yeah, that's crazy. So I love it. It sounds funny.
Is that a certain kind of wisdom, or is it something else? What do you call it?
I call it feeling, but I don't know, that there's words that can describe it. I call it personal connection with other people. And when we tune into that frequency, so much information is available. Most of us have not been trained how to tap into it. But it's just like that second sixth sense or intuitive voice or inner voice. What I found is that a lot of women particularly get challenged, because the voice that's like talking to them right now is not a very pleasant, friendly voice. And they're like, well, I don't want to listen to that voice anymore. And it's like there's another voice underneath the negative voice that's like dying to have a larger, control over our lives. And so it's being able to move the kind of heavy negative voice out of the way and bringing this like soulful, beautiful, loving voice out and giving it a larger megaphone. And money seems to really bring out the negative and not always the positive.
Yeah, interesting. Okay, I'm speaking with Leisa Peterson today, and we're moving into a segment called Superpowers for Success. So I'm going to ask you a few quick round questions. The first one is, Leisa, what does success in life mean for you?
Two things, freedom and joy. So freedom to have the resources that I can do the things that are important to me, and to, freely support causes that I believe in. And joy, because I truly believe that life is about play, and we've lost our way as that is, concerned. So joy is number one. And it shouldn't be the final frontier. It should actually be the first thing that we think about.
Talk a little bit more about that. Why is that so important for other people to have as well?
Yeah. I didn't understand this for many years, because there was so much negative stuff blocking me from being able to understand what joy even is. And joy is being in the present moment without anything pulling you or draining your energy or feeling like you can't be of service to others because you're so wrapped up in your own stuff. Like, joy is freedom from all of that stuff to just be present and aware and happy to be alive in this moment.
And the wonderful thing is that we have control over that.
Yes.
We can turn it on and we can turn it off.
Yes, we can.
Okay. When did you know, Leisa, that you're really good at what you do?
I would say that's where coaching has really come in for me. Hearing the impact that the work that I'm doing with my clients is having on others. But what also comes to mind is I was recently interviewed by for the second time for a popular podcast. And during the podcast, David asked me a question. And then he said, before you even kind of answer that, I want you to know that I was talking to someone else who knows you really well. And we both are really clear that you have no clue of how powerful of a being you are, And I was like, what? Two people I deeply respect saying that. And it's just so funny that still I can be feeling so much joy inside, but maybe still not understand the impact that it's having on others until they tell you.
Mm-hmm. That feedback.
Yeah, it's awesome. Like, everyone needs to get more awesome feedback.
Yeah, it's amazing when you do get that. It validates everything that you're doing. Okay, so Leisa, describe one habit that contributes to your well-being.
The biggest thing is noticing when I'm in resistance to something. That's what changes everything for me, because whether or not you've reached a certain level of joy in your life, there's always going to be things that you run up against where you just go into resistance and you fight it. And so for me, I'm writing this book about scarcity mindset. And, 4 months into writing this book, when I was starting to hit some ceilings in my own life, because that's what happens when we write transformational books. We realize that we still have some things to learn. And one day, massive breakdown, because I realized that I was writing a book about scarcity, but yet I was living in scarcity, and I had that mindset. And so the minute I was like, and it's not pretty when this happens, right? It's like, although I'm living in scarcity and I'm trying to write a book to help other people, I'm okay, and I fully and completely love and accept myself. Like, it's okay for me to be in this pain and trying to help people. But as long as I was resisting it, I was not going to help anybody, including myself. Does that explain how that works?
So, so noticing when you're in resistance to something and then saying,
letting it go
and accepting it.
Yeah. So I use emotional freedom technique a lot because it's super quick tapping to help my clients move through some of these things that we go into resistance with.
Oh, you actually teach tapping to your clients?
Yes.
As part of what you offer.
Yeah. Yeah. I do meditation. I love everyone, hears me talk about meditation, but meditation takes time. It's not like I can just, walk somebody through meditation and have them have huge epiphanies. It doesn't work like that. So I needed other tools, and EFT was one that I kept returning to over and over again, and then started having some pretty big breakthroughs with my clients and personally. And I'm like, awesome, because now I can help people in the moment when they need it most, and it doesn't have to be 3 months later.
Yeah, right. Is this also related to muscle testing? I've been hearing about muscle testing a
lot lately. Yeah,
muscle.
I do. Muscle testing is great because you can test something that you're in resistance to. So, you can ask the questions, kind of you're asking and you're feeling in your body if you're going weak or strong. And, because of my empathy, I actually don't have to use the muscle testing as much, but I did for several years because that was the only way that I could tell. Now it kind of, the more you try it, the more you can feel it.
Right. Okay. Great. Okay. Now, what superpower did you discover you had only to realize it was there all the time?
So that was the empathy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I think we already talked. Yeah. We covered that then.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That is an amazing superpower to have. But it's not something that is unattainable for other people. I mean,
yeah.
This is the thing about superpowers, is that we a lot of times we have them and we don't use them.
Yes. Everyone has it. We're born deeply empathetic human beings. It's part of how we're constructed. And the way we know that is really by animals. They've not, they don't overthink things, right? If you're sick, your animals tend to gravitate to you. Or if you're angry, they head for the hills. They're just feeling things. And that's what we're doing as human beings. We're feeling each other and we're connecting into it. And the more we work on developing it and the more we clear out our garbage, the more space there is for us to hear what is going on for other people and not just ourselves. Does that make sense?
It's an ongoing journey, though, isn't it? Or it's an ongoing process, because you think you've got something figured out, and then you sort of forget about it or somehow lose track of that, and then you have to do it all over again.
Oh, yeah, especially if your world gets shaked up with a lot of changes and stuff. You're like, okay, you feel like you're starting from ground zero sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, and let's see. What about what book are you reading right now? Like, what's on your nightstand? What are you into?
So it's funny because my hardest challenge is around communicating what I do to other people, because that book hasn't totally been written. So I love going to the library and just kind of looking through different sections. And recently I picked up a book called Hypnotic Communication or something like that, hypnotic writing. And I was like, that really speaks to me. So it's by Joe Vitale, and it's just a super fun book, because I think for women who are trying to figure out how to communicate things effectively, it's not like hocus pocus. It's actually pretty fun to see how, like, John Steinbeck, I guess, was a really hypnotic writer, and Agatha Christie, like, it's fun to see how authors are able to make a big impact in bringing you back again and again to their writing. And that's what's appealing to me right now.
Okay, and final question. What advice would you give your 25 or 30-year-old self?
So I love this question, and I feel like this has been the journey that I've been on. But I didn't know it at the time, and it has always been, no matter what you do, focus as much time as you possibly can to learning how to fully and completely love and accept yourself.
It's so hard, though.
Yes. It has been a long journey. I started this journey, got serious about it in 1999, and it's only been in the past few years where I can tell you that I understand what that journey was all about and why it was so worthy of putting so much attention into it. It's amazing, but you don't know if it's even ever possible. I feel like it's like that holy grail out there. You're like, it might be real and it might not be real, but I'm going to die trying to get the answers, because, I'm not one of those who was born with, but quickly lost in the idea of loving myself. And I feel like it's been a long road home to that place where it's like, yeah, you're pretty awesome.
It's amazing, isn't it? It's we're not born not loving ourselves.
Yeah.
Something happens. Obviously, we all have a story and things happen. And then we have to come back to that. So for women who may be listening, who may be on the edge, sort of on the verge of something big in their lives in terms of making that leap, what would you say to them?
It seems like a dance. It's not any one thing. It's a collection of many things. So I like to describe the idea of wealth as being the full spectrum of all the areas of our life that are important to us: our relationships, our career, our money, the environment, our health. And that it is, for me, I had to actually look at every one of those buckets and do the dance in each of those in order to arrive at the place that I stand today. Like, there was nothing that could be left out. So the body is its own journey. We get these pains and these aches. And I truly believe that the stuff that I help people release at the, heart level or the mental level are also being stored in the body. And so finding those practitioners that help you release that stuff in the body is one journey. And focusing on your relationships with others is another journey. And then this journey with money is the same thing. So don't give up. If there's one area you've mastered, awesome. Then just realize that there might be another area to now shift your attention towards. and shower it with love and attention and nurture, because it will come.
That's beautiful. And I just would say that it can feel very scary, but it's so worth it if you just keep going.
Yes.
Keep doing it. So thank you so much for being on the program, Leisa. This has been awesome.
Thank you so much for the opportunity. I love being here and talking about this stuff with you.
That's it for our show today. I've been speaking with Leisa Peterson, self-made millionaire, mom, wife, transformational business coach, educator, and retreat facilitator. Leisa specializes in coaching entrepreneurs who are ready to take their profits to a new level while at the same time creating greater joy, fulfillment, and inner prosperity for themselves. I spoke to Leisa about the importance of precise money management, how you can be mindful in your relationship with money, and the first steps to gaining financial and spiritual wealth through mindful practices. You can get Leisa's Wealth Flower exercise for free at www.wellwomanlife.com/011show. Our monthly life event, Well Woman Drinks, brings women together to share our successes and challenges as women leaders, moms, aunts, sisters, and all the other roles we carry. If you'd like to attend a Well Woman Drinks near you, or if there isn't one in your city yet and you'd like to start one, email me at info@wellwomanlife.com. If you enjoyed the show, please take a moment and subscribe to the show in iTunes and leave a review. This really helps raise visibility of the show, which makes it accessible to other women who may not know about it. And it's really helpful when it comes to producing the show every week for you. You can also continue the conversation in the Well Woman Life community group at facebook.com/groups/Well Woman Life community. For feedback, comments, or just to let me know you were listening today, find me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Well Woman Life. I'm Giovanna Rossi for The Well Woman Show. Until next time, have a super powerful week.